In 2004, fans of Square Enix's Kingdom Hearts series were treated to the release of a brand new game called Chain of Memories. The original Chain of Memories was released on the Game Boy Advance, which was weird considering that the first one was a PS2 game. And trust me, this won't be the last time this happens in the series. And 4 years later, Square chose to remake the game on the PlayStation 2 in 2008. The game's director, Tetsuya Nomura, decided that it would serve as a bridge between the events of Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2, and is the definitive version of the game since it's the one that's been included in all of the 1.5 and 2.5 collections. So I'll be covering this version for the video. Hey, my name is Jude, and if you've never smelled Ansem before, yes, that is a real line in this game, then I'm here to tell you what is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. So let's get that story out of the way, shall we? We begin where the first Kingdom Hearts left off, where Sora, Donald, and Goofy are chasing off after Pluto. But I guess they took a wrong turn at Albuquerque because they came across this castle in the middle of Oblivion called, Castle Oblivion, where we're then introduced to the new main baddies of the series, the Organization, who are the rulers of the castle and taunt Sora to venture further into said castle. Along the way, he begins to remember a little girl named Naminé, but also slowly forgets about that one girl from the last game, whoever she was, and eventually bumps into Riku along the way, who is suspiciously missing King Mickey by his side, and he picks a fight in the most arbitrary way possible: card battles.
I activate this, well I activate this, and I activate your mama, then I activate... What? You heard me, Kaiba.
So the plot has some decent moments here and there, but man, this game's narrative is weird and dumb. You have a main character who slowly begins to be disillusioned with reality, to the point where he runs off on his own like an idiot. And a lot of what he does in the game is retconned out of the series anyway, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to talk about the Disney worlds. They're alright. And given how these worlds aren't even real at all, it's hard to form any attachment to the movies they're based off of. So at its core, a majority of Chain of Memories' plot is just retellings of the first game. So it's a good thing they never tried to retell KH1 into any future games or anything. But while Sora may be a mess of a character, the various members of Castle Oblivion are much more interesting to follow along, such as Axel, Larxene, and Naminé. Axel is the first member of the Organization to be revealed to Sora and the gang, and there are several scenes of him just stealing the show with his mysterious motives and calm yet stoic personality. Larxene, meanwhile, acts sadistic and takes a great delight in enraging Sora, along with taunting her fellow Organization members to boot. She's cold and ruthless as befits her title of the Savage Nymph, one whose personality makes her an easy to hate but memorable villain. Naminé, on the other hand, is a very sad and lonely little girl. She just wants to have some friends to keep her company in this overly bright castle, and simply follows the orders of those she knows. And despite its shortcomings, the plot does a good job of making you care about what happens to her, which is more than what I can say about Sora, who really thinks that this blonde kid likes her for some weird reason.
Your feelings for her are not real.
They are real to me!
Chain of Memories takes what made the first Kingdom Hearts so much fun and completely throws it out the window. Remember how the first game had an emphasis on hack and slash combat with magic-based projectiles? Well, guess what? Now we have to use Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Collect them all. You'll be playing as Sora and Riku throughout the game, and you'll have to use playing cards to fight off the Heartless. The game is broken up into two portions, the overworld and the battle arenas. Within the overworld, you can jump around, climb ladders, hit objects, and attack enemies to begin the card battles. And it's best you hit the Heartless before they hit you, since all foes will be stunned for the first few seconds of encounters. Next, we have the map cards. These cards will dictate what the room will look like, as well as what kind of enemies you'll encounter in the overworld. You'll need to look over the card's description to get an idea of what kind of room you're walking into. For example, red cards, like the Sleeping Darkness, produce a room with Heartless that are fast asleep, and can be easily ambushed for some extra damage at the start of battles, along with being a decent way to farm some EXP in the early game, while the Looming Darkness card makes Heartless more aggressive since they'll chase you around the map. Then there's green cards, which provide several buffs during battles, like the Martial Waking, which increases the value of all cards by 2, or the Alchemic Waking card, which makes item cards more effective. And the blue cards are able to give you various rewards, like the Moogle Room card, which gives you a shop that lets you purchase new cards for your deck, and gives you an extra attack card pack upon opening a new shop. Another blue card that you should use is the Calm Bounty card, since it will always give Sora a new slate combo per world you visit. And of course, the Mingling World, which is a random card that lets good old RNG decide where you'll enter.
I can finally leave
coming home, sweetie? I'm back in the f***ing building again!
The other important map cards are the various key cards. These are used to make progress within the world, and there are 4 of them in total. There's the Key to Beginnings, Guidance, Key to Truth, and Key to Rewards. The Key to Beginnings and Guidance moves the plot along. You watch a cutscene or a poor retelling of the first game, yada yada yada. But there are some rare instances where you'll fight a group of enemies or even a boss like in the Monstro world. And the Key to Truth has you fight the boss of said world, which will then take you to the Conqueror's Respite on the next floor to save your game. Now the Key to Rewards is a rare one that drops randomly after the first fight against a Larxene boss. These cards are optional and can be used to get treasures like new cards and slates throughout the game, but most of the boss cards you get are virtually worthless, with the exception of the last Key to Rewards, which gives you the Super Glide ability, and all these key cards require some kind of paywall to access them, like a blue card that equals 0 or a set amount of red cards. Now the best card you can find is, without doubt, the Random Joker card, which lets you bypass the paywall entirely if you can't find the exact card needed to progress, and will drop randomly during encounters, so if you see one show up in the roulette wheel, you better go get it. Speaking of progression, here's something you'll want to know. The further you progress in the game, battles will stop dropping green cards entirely, which you'll need. As soon as you reach the Destiny Islands, they stop spawning entirely, meaning that if you want to open mandatory doors with a green card, you have to go back to previous worlds and hope you get lucky with some green cards. Does the game tell you this in any way at all? Absolutely not. But hey, the more you know. Next, let's talk about the cards and slates you can acquire throughout your stay at Castle Oblivion. Each card has a number value ranging from 0 to 9, and you can counter an enemy's card by playing a card that's equal or of a higher number. Those 0 cards are the exception, since they can break any higher number card combo. However, they can be easily broken, so it's best to save them for a high combo during bosses. And you'll want to do a card break since it leaves enemies vulnerable to counterattacks. You'll need to equip cards in your deck to fight off the Heartless, and you have a limited amount of storage, and when you level up, you can increase your health, unlock new slates, or upgrade your deck size. There's attack cards, magic cards, item cards, and boss cards. And when you run out of cards, you can reload your deck, but you'll lose cards over time the more you reload after a combo. You can hit foes with a single card for a 3-hit combo, or mix 3 cards into a combo hit. And after getting enough levels, you unlock slates to perform slate attacks. There are a ton of slates to choose from, but you'll want to use the attack slates since they do the most damage, and several of these combos require similar or different attack cards to execute. There are several attack cards that are carried over from the first game, like the Sliding Dash, the Strike Raid, and one of the best early game slates, Blitz, which is a 3-hit combo that has you leap across the map to deal a high amount of damage to a single target. But the best attack slate in the game is, by far, Sonic Blade. Sonic Blade is a fast-hitting thrust attack that makes you completely invincible and can stun lock enemies and bosses no problem. But some of the best slates in the game belong to the magic slates, like Faraga Burst, Judgment, and the Boss Annihilator itself, Lethal Frame, which is a single target combo that stops enemies in their tracks and deals an insane amount of damage over time. And combine that with a boss card like the Jafar card, which keeps foes from breaking your cards. Roses are red, violets are blue.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Next, we have magic cards. There are a ton of cards to choose from that fall under this category. There's spells from the previous game, like Fire, Blizzard, and Thunder. And the Cure spell is your main way of healing throughout the game, along with summon cards like Cloud, Mushu, the Genie, and Simba. Then there's the various item/friend cards. Item cards are used to reload Sora's deck instantly, like potions to reload attack cards or ethers for magic. But the best item cards are easily the Elixir and Mega Elixir, since they return cards that have been lost during a reload. And you can find the Elixir card by completing Eeyore's minigame within the 100-acre wood world. But the Mega Elixir card will need to be unlocked in the Room of Rewards area within the Destiny Islands. And lastly, there's the friend cards, which drop randomly during battles, and these consist of Donald, Goofy, or a character from the Disney worlds, like Aladdin, Jack Skellington, or Ariel. Goofy can spin around or do a jumping attack on a foe, while Donald will cast offensive or support magic, and what he does is up to the RNG gods. Sometimes he'll heal Sora, other times he'll cast fire on the fire boss and heal them like an idiot. But just like KH1, they're best used for the Trinity Limit Slate, which, once again, is a screen nuke that is best used to clear out rooms of Heartless. and serves as the best way to farm EXP at the end of the game, since it can only be unlocked after entering the final level. Now, the worlds you go to are all recycled from the first game, except for Deep Jungle because Disney lost the rights to that somehow. The world order you can go into doesn't really matter, but worlds like Agrabah are good to start with, since the boss itself is pretty easy. But if there's any world you want to get out of the way, do 100 Acre Wood ASAP. It's short and filled with nothing but minigames that only give new items and slates. Aside from that, there is nothing to write home about. These worlds are lifeless and boring as heck. Every room is the exact same. They're all copy pasted with a slightly different look to them. And unfortunately, Atlantica is not optional. Yay. Though the last 3 world Sora visits are unique, those being Twilight Town, which only features 1 major event, the Destiny Islands features 2 events, and the final world, Castle Oblivion, is the biggest world in the game and includes one of the worst card requirements to progress, needing a red card of 3 and over 99 cards to open and fight the boss. Chain of Memories features a ton of bosses, but most of them are recycled from the previous game. The world bosses have a certain gimmick to help speed up the encounter. These are called gimmick cards. They can stun Ursula, provide a platform to fight against Maleficent, raise the floor against Jafar, etc. And you summon this card by breaking the enemy's cards enough times. The one exception being Captain Hook of the Neverland world, where instead of relying on a gimmick card, Hook will play the All Zeros card, which can randomly break your card combos at any point, so it's best to bring the Genie Jafar card when he pops his one out. Now, the most noteworthy fights are the various Organization and Riku fights. You fight every member at least twice and duke it out with the Repliku 4 times. And each new fight gives him a new ability, like Dark Faraga and Dark Aura. But again, Lethal Frame, go burr! Vexen is the first major challenge of the game. He has a lot of powerful slates that can end your life very quickly in the first fight. And it only gets worse when you fight him in Twilight Town, where he has more health and spams more powerful slate combos. Larxene, on the other hand, is even more of a pain to deal with. Her first fight is pretty standard in terms of difficulty, but her second round is way tougher. She has a lot of fast-hitting attacks that will quickly combo you to death, and she brings her own unique boss card, which will greatly increase her speed. So Sonic Blade and Lethal Frame will work wonders against unlocking her. Axel is one of the first boss fights in the game. His first go-around is a pretty easy encounter, but the refight in Castle Oblivion is much more challenging, since he has access to new slates like Firetooth, which will combo you to death and is nearly impossible to break out of. And the Marluxia fights are arguably the hardest encounters in the game. You'll fight him 3 times and you'll need to be at your best before taking him on. The first fight will have you utilize 0 cards to break out of his attacks like the Death Scythe move. In the next fight, Marluxia decides to fly all sky high and summon a giant monster to rain death from above. Most of your combos are worthless in this battle, since he's an airborne enemy and forces you to use single card attacks to whittle away at his health. So it's best to plan ahead and build your deck for the second fight, which can be quite a challenge. While Marluxia may be stationary, he pulls out some powerful slates at lightning fast speeds, like the Whirlwind to the Void, which forces you to regather all your cards, including your reload card, his Gale of Severance, which is a gust of wind to blow you away, and the infamous Doom spell, in which Sora will need to escape the clutches of death by breaking Marluxia's cards within the allotted time. And he has the highest health pool of any boss thus far in the game, so this final boss can take a while to beat. And if you die at any point, it's back to your last save, which is normally right before the second boss fight, since this was before the retry option was ever added to the series. But wait, there's more! There's the side story unlocked after beating the main game, that being Reverse Rebirth. Riku's story involves him conquering the darkness within his heart, along with fighting off various new members of the organization and the returning Ansem. As far as gameplay is concerned, Riku doesn't have the same card depth that Sora has, and his deck will always have a different card value per world he visits. On top of that, Riku only has access to attack cards, but he's able to use many more boss cards than Sora can. The best boss card that Riku can use is the Dragon Maleficent card, which boosts his damage at the cost of reload speed. However, since Riku's reload speed is instant, it gives him a free advantage in battles. His main gimmick involves him breaking enemy cards in fast succession in order to build up his meter to enter the darkness form, which boosts his attack power even further and grants access to his only slate combos. Dark Break, which is a giant overhead that pecks away at foes, Dark Faraga, a ranged fireball that does impressive damage, and his best slate, Dark Aura, a powerful teleporting slash that deals a high amount of damage to everything around him. But Riku's other most important gimmick is that he can enter what's known as dual stance. If he attacks an enemy with the same card value, he can enter a duel and will need to break the opponent's cards to win and do some fancy finishers. And when he levels up, he can increase his health, damage, and his darkness mode, allowing him to stay in D mode much longer. And he only has one friend card in the whole game, that being the Miska Muska himself, and serves as his primary way of healing. But it will also reload some of his cards and stun all foes for a brief period. MIC, KEY, MOUSC, Mickey Mouse, heal me! Aside from that, Riku travels to the exact same worlds as Sora does, but he only fights the bosses, which is weird since he never went to half of these worlds in the first place. Though he does have a few noteworthy boss encounters, those being Lexaeus, Zexion, and Ansem. The first Ansem fight is hardly a boss and only serves as a tutorial to introduce the duel system. Then the second fight is a walk in the park, as you go Dark Mode and spam Dark Aura to win. The fight against the Cloak Schemer, Zexion, has an interesting gimmick however, since he can steal Riku's cards and use them in his own deck, and he can clone himself to use your cards against you, and you'll have to hit the flames to get your card deck back. And finally there's a taciturn stalwart himself, Lexaeus, who bonks Riku with a giant tomahawk that gives all earthbenders a run for their money. That being said, he's more a boss sponge than anything else, especially when his power level rises.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Okay, so let's go over some tips and fun facts about the game, shall we? If the option to unlock a new slate comes up, always go for it. The sooner you get to slates like Sonic Blade and Lethal Frame, the better. After beating the game, as both Sora and Riku, if you head back to Twilight Town and use a Calm Bounty card, you can unlock the Ansem card. Not only that, but if Sora returns to the Castle Oblivion world and uses the Calm Bounty card twice, he can find not only the Lexaeus card, but also the Ultra Weapon card as well. And if Sora returns to the Destiny Islands world, he can find the Zexion card to boot. You can warp back to previous world with the Purple Crystal Ball, which is present at the start of every new floor of the castle. Also, if you want to change the card room for whatever reason, you have the freedom to do so. By the way, remember how I mentioned earlier that the extra organization cards could be unlocked via the key to rewards? Well, guess what? You need to watch all of 358 over 2 days to get those extra cards. Then you need to go through the Roxas diary along with the secret reports and head back into Chain of Memories to find those extra cards. If you come across a roulette wheel that upgrades one of your cards to the premium status, that means that the card's CP cost will be lower, but it can't be reloaded through the default way. So you'll have to rely on using items like potions or elixirs to reload these cards. If you want to farm the key to rewards room, the best area to farm that in is in the Atlantico world, which for some reason has the highest drop rate of this card. Am I done yet? Cool, moving on! So hopefully this video has given you a good idea on what this game is and how it plays. If you wish to purchase this game, it is now available via the HD Collections, which has been re-released on PC via the Epic Games Store and most recently on Steam. And once again, it's still backwards compatible on PS5, Xbox Series, oh and there's a Switch version too, technically, but it's via cloud, so don't bother. Chain of Memories, while it has some potential with some decent gameplay elements, is a very weird in-between game that lacks a lot of polish that the main games have. Despite that, the game is still worth playing and is required to understand the events of future Kingdom Hearts games. So it's a good thing I'm never going to cover days or anything. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I hope you have a blessed day. Take care.